"The world is full of obvious things which nobody by any chance ever observes," said Sherlock Holmes. Are we truly incapable of seeing what is constantly revolving right before our eyes? Or are we being rendered incapable on purpose? The world and the scale of the illegal economy we mentioned in our previous video were already astonishing. However, our journey today takes this subject much further. On the world stage, there is a group that has made the darkest actions we struggle to even imagine a common part of their daily routines. And these wretched entities, who normally rarely poke their heads out of their dark corners, are now before us with the exposure of a much larger and more systematic network. You know, the talk of those world-ruling elites often mentioned in famous videos or conspiracy theories. It is now as clear as day that those very names are frolicking in a perverse abyss far beyond our limits of perception. Yet, even though what we see is only the tip of the iceberg, it has been enough to grate on our nerves over the past few days, leaving us all with the questions: what kind of planet, what kind of era are we living in? If these are humans, what are we? What kind of system is this? And here today we will see together how eerie and dark the reality of some events which I previously defined as mere conspiracy theories within the realm of possibility actually is. Welcome. This episode will be dark and unpleasant, but facing the truth is always the first step. While the agenda is so stifling and depressing, if we are to get to the heart of the matter, we will delve into the financial and strategic core of the issue, without drowning in those unfounded and disturbing visuals circulating on the internet. Therefore, you can sit back and watch the process with the meticulousness of a detective. Economic Sherlock brings the lens into very close focus. It all began in the summer of 2019 when a man was found dead in one of New York's most secure prisons. And this figure, found hanging in his cell with broken bones in his neck, is Jeffrey Epstein, once the mysterious Prince of Wall Street. Although official reports stated suicide, the world never believed it. So, how did Epstein, an ordinary boy from Brooklyn, manage to build an empire surrounded by presidents, princes, billionaires, and Hollywood stars, ruining the lives of hundreds of young girls? As documents leak, how rotten the world is comes to light one by one. Born in 1953 in New York as the child of a middle-class Jewish family, Epstein, despite being exceptionally gifted in mathematics and physics, could not finish university and left after changing schools twice without graduating from either. Yet, despite being only a high school graduate on paper, his hiring at just 21 years old as a physics and mathematics teacher at the Dalton School, one of New York's most elite schools attended by the children of politicians and media moguls, is an unprecedented event in history. The name behind this appointment was the school principal, Donald Barr, who had served as an agent in the OSS, the predecessor of the CIA, and had written a book about child slavery in space, ruled by elites. Considering that Barr's son, William Barr, is also a former Attorney General and CIA agent, it is not hard to understand that there is no room for coincidence here. After working at the school for 3 years and networking with wealthy families, Epstein became close with Bear Stearns CEO Alan Greenberg and stepped into the world of finance. Although fired in 1981 due to irregularities, he had already become the strategic mastermind of one of America's largest Ponzi schemes founded by Stephen Hoffenberg. In this structure that defrauded over 200,000 investors of approximately $450 million through Towers Financial, Epstein managed to escape with millions of dollars without taking any legal responsibility. For Epstein, who used this dirty money as seed capital to establish his own hedge fund, his real rise occurred through his meeting with billionaire Leslie Wexner, the owner of Victoria's Secret. Despite warnings from all his financial advisors, Wexner granted Epstein unlimited power of attorney over his massive fortune, including him in every aspect of his life. The allegations that Wexner was involved in cocaine transport operations with the CIA front company, Southern Air Transport, and was the founder of the mega group of Mossad-linked lobby group. Also explain why such immense power was attributed to Epstein. With Wexner's money, Epstein bought one of New York's largest mansions, began using private jets, and most importantly, assumed the role of a talent scout for Victoria's Secret, luring hundreds of young girls into his web with promises of modeling careers. This network was, in fact, a massive honey trap operation, orchestrated with the support of the CIA and Mossad. And the center of this operation was the island of Little St. James in the Caribbean. The 3.5 million pages of documents, 2,000 videos, and 180,000 images open to the public at the end of 2025 proved that life on the island is a systematic factory of abuse and blackmail rather than a luxury vacation. Victims were incorporated into the system under the guise of massage therapy. And a pyramid scheme MLM was operated where bonuses were paid for every new girl brought in. In the investigations starting in 2005, despite the FBI identifying hundreds of victims, Epstein escaped with only 13 months in prison due to an illegal non-prosecution agreement made by then federal prosecutor Alexander Acosta. However, when the New York Federal Prosecutor's Office reopened the case in 2019, he had nowhere left to run. He was found dead by coincidence immediately after announcing he would become an informant in prison. Following the failure of cameras, guards falling asleep, and the transfer of his cellmate, the characterization by Dr. Michael Baden, who performed Epstein's autopsy, of a 66-year-old man breaking his neck in 3 places by hanging himself as a natural occurrence was a tragic, comic attempt at a cover-up. The leaked documents mention hundreds of giant names ranging from Bill Clinton to Donald Trump, Prince Andrew to Bill Gates, and even former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, according to the testimony of victim Johanna Schoberg. Epstein ran a disgusting organization, stating, "Bill Clinton likes them young. I'm making the arrangements accordingly." The soundproof underground rooms of the gold-domed building on the island, known as the Temple, were used as rape and torture dungeons according to victim testimonies. While Epstein positioned himself as a deity and made the girls perform occult rituals, he blackmailed his elite guests by recording these moments with hidden cameras. At the Zorro Ranch Mansion in New Mexico, he planned to establish baby breeding centers to create his own superior race, and even had cryogenic tanks designed to be resurrected in the future. One of the most shocking details in the documents is the section regarding the Gölcük earthquake in Turkey. Flight records and notes from Epstein's pilot, Larry Visosky, reveal that the jet named the _Express landed near Turkey during the earthquake period, and include correspondence from assistants who viewed humanitarian crises in the region as opportunities for child procurement. The possibility that thousands of people, and especially children, who went missing in the 1999 earthquake were kidnapped abroad by this network has become much more than a conspiracy theory, with the documents released in 2026. Other chilling details in Epstein's Black Book include plans to blackmail United Nations officials to seize Libya's $80 billion in frozen assets and the use of Bill Gates' private health data as blackmail material. All of this system is actually a modern form of perverse beliefs based on ancient rituals and the Baal cult, in which babies were curbed. When we question why the compliance departments of JPMorgan and Deutsche Bank ignored the risky profiles of their clients, we understand how the system turned into an accomplice, allowing Epstein to withdraw $100,000 in cash a day and the recording of money transfers to Russian models as hotel expenses and bank records are evidence of how financial oversight was deliberately blinded. Specifically, the emails exchanged with Jess Staley, coded Snow White, prove how this network spread to the highest levels of the banks. On the other hand, the irrational figure of $158 million paid to Epstein by Leon Black under the guise of tax consultancy can be characterized as a blackmail fee rather than a consultancy fee. When we examine the logistics costs and flight records on Epstein's island one by one, we see how these flights coincided with the victim's school holidays with frightening precision. This is not a coincidence. It is logistical planning. The details in Virginia Giuffre's testimonies reveal through documentation that it was actually a slavery system reinforced by mandatory service contracts and economic dependency. At this point, we need to understand that famous names were actually just the visible faces of the gears of this massive global blackmail economy. When we examine Mossad or CIA, connections not as conspiracy theories, but as an operational security and legal shield, we see that the dead man's switch mechanism, which remained active even after Epstein's death, is the financial insurance that still ensures many names remain silent today. As a result, the picture before us is the reality that Epstein was a financial figure who effectively listed human trafficking on the stock exchange rather than just a criminal, and that global banking giants remain silent shareholders of this profitable holding.
However,
we must not believe every piece of information circulating on the internet and must be careful against disinformation. However, we must not believe every piece of information circulating on the internet and must be careful against disinformation. Epstein was merely a pawn, and his death did not end the system, because this network continues to control the elites with the blackmail data in its possession. Perhaps a major crisis or war that may break out soon will be another distraction. Move designed to prevent deeper diving into these documents. Regardless, do not lose your common sense. Listen to the voice of the documents and never stop following the trail of money. Because for Economic Sherlock, truths never remain hidden. They only wait to be discovered at the right time, and we are determined to go to the end of this dark tunnel. The Jeffrey Epstein case is not an end, but a massive precedent showing how far the global financial oligarchy can go. And today, as we open these sealed doors, we are actually exposing how great a threat our own future is under. Follow the money, for it is the only thing that cannot lie.